Welcome to the It Is What It Is podcast. This is your host, Michael. Today, I want to talk about how to become unstoppable in life. So, here's how you become unstoppable: you never quit. Podcast is over. Jokingly saying that because it really is as simple as that. But in order to fully unpack and digest what that means, I'll start with this idea of resilience and that famous quote by Theodore Roosevelt of the man in the arena. And the general gist of that quote is that there is a lot of respect and dignity and honor in someone who has been through that journey and been through those trials, and someone who refuses to give up and refuses to yield and stay in that arena. And I think this is the problem with social media and these short clips about motivational reels. Quitting does not mean staying in an abusive relationship because you believe in that person and you should never give up. Never quitting doesn't mean pivoting when you realize that this isn't your dream and maybe it's better to follow your heart and do something that you really love to do. Never quitting doesn't mean not taking breaks or giving yourself a rest or letting yourself feel emotions and break down and be sad. Never quitting basically means to never leave the arena. And never leaving the arena basically means that you're always in the game. You're always playing. And yes, you might take a step back. You might temporarily need a breather, but you're always pushing forward in this life. So the natural question after this is, how do you become resilient enough to never quit? Because boy, is it easy to quit. And what steps can you take to really live a life that you're proud of, that you can stick to and be consistent to? And how does that roadmap look like? So the way that I kind of frame this from a health perspective, a mental health perspective, and a spiritual perspective is that there are three categories to be unstoppable in life. And you need all three in order to be in the arena. And as I kind of go through these three, you'll see what I mean, because having two out of the three or even one of the three means that there is still something lacking. And if at all you feel lost or empty or you feel like there's something missing, chances are, or most likely, that one of the three is missing from your life. So I'll start with the first pillar, I would say, to become unstoppable in life and stay in the arena. And that is your health, right? This is your body, essentially. And your body is super important for the obvious reasons as mentioned, right? How can you stay in the fight if your body is broken? Can you realistically tell me that you can give it your all and 100% if you're sick or you have the fever or you have some ailment, or you're tired all the time, or you can't get enough sleep, or you don't feel your best all the time, your body is a major debilitating factor to your ability to be unstoppable and to succeed. It does not matter how smart you are. It does not matter how charismatic you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Your health and your body is the great equalizer. A great example of this is literally anyone. If you look at someone like Steve Jobs, who had everything and he died of pancreatic cancer, right? Your body is the foundational key to make things happen. When you have a unhealthy body, it's restrictive, and you will have to jump hoops to ensure that you can still maintain a performance, but your performance will always be at a subpar level. So simple things to basically raise your potential to be unstoppable with your body are what you will commonly hear. And that is taking care of yourself, as in whatever maintenance your health needs, take care of it, whether that's brushing your teeth, staying clean, sleeping enough, eating healthy. And the other big part would be some sort of physical exercise. And this is probably very, very obvious to many of you, but it cannot be understated how foundational and how basic this is. And if you are starting on this journey of life, don't skip ahead to the other two. You must get this down first. And that's the reason why it's probably one of the most commonly cited recommended things for you to do. Until you can get your body into your highest potential state, everything else in your life will lag to some degree. The second pillar is your mental health, or your mind, as I would say. When your mind is in a bad place, it does not matter what is around you. And you're wondering, how do you optimize or better your mind to basically be unstoppable? Because that is one of the most common things of why people quit and voluntarily leave the arena, right? Things like fear and doubt, and you're scared, and you don't want to risk yourself. You don't want to be vulnerable, and all of those things coincide with you have the ability to change how you think. And people may not realize this, but you literally have the ability to rewire your brain, rewire your neuroplasticity, and become whoever you want to be. In the same way you could augment your body by going to the gym, you could augment your mind by practicing healthy, therapeutic, somatic, behavioral differences in your life. Now, that can vary from just sitting in a quiet room for 10 minutes a day to listen to your thoughts and understanding that you are not your thoughts, to you seeking a therapist or a life coach, to sitting down with a friend or a community and having an honest conversation with yourself and them. And there are many ways to accomplish this. And I think this is probably it's the second one for a reason, but it's, I would say, a little bit harder than the first because the path is less straightforward and it takes as much work or more work than getting your body into shape. And this is the reason why you need to get your body into shape first, because you cannot get your mind into its most optimal state unless you get your body, right? Like, imagine trying to work on your mind while you're bedridden and sick. There's no way. There's no way. Like, I can't imagine anyone try to work on themselves and being in the worst environment possible physically. So note that it has to be done in this order. When your mind is not in its most optimal state, you will literally see the world differently. And this is such a profound insight to your life if you can recognize this. As in, I think an example that I like to use and share a lot, let's say that you are on a street and next to you is another person. And you suddenly see someone walking a dog. Now, normally that would be completely inconsequential, neutral stimulus to your mind. And you might see the dog and be like, oh, I have a dog, or dogs are cute, or hey, look, it's a dog. I feel indifferent about it. Now, imagine the person next to you sees this dog, and this person in their childhood has been attacked by a dog and either physically or emotionally scarred by that dog. How do you think that they're going to react? Now, notice that the environment and the stimulus has not changed. It's just a dog. But your ability to take that stimulus and take a step back and realize that it's literally just your perspective and your label and your words that are shaping that same experience to be a negative one is ultimately up to you, right? I'll use potentially a more better example, right? Let's just say that you are trying to get a job like most people do. You can either put your best foot forward and just say, hey, I'm going to try my best. If I don't get it, I'm still proud that I'm still in the arena. I never give up, and I ultimately am making the choice to put myself out there, regardless if I succeed or fail. And then a negative mentality would be, oh, it's so hard to get hired now. The odds are stacked against me. The world sucks. Back in the day, my parents had it way easier. No one understands. And again, realize that it's literally the same exact reality. It's the same exact set of circumstances. The only thing that has changed is your label and your perspective. And once you're able to change your mindset and perspective, you will be unstoppable. Without the mental part, you will always be handicapped. Without your mindset being strong, you will always never reach your full potential. In the same way, if your body is always sick, you will never reach your full potential. So, in order to get to a place where you can be the master of your own mind, it takes a couple of steps. One is to be okay with being uncomfortable. And what that means is that being okay with feelings, negative feelings, and realizing those feelings are only temporary, and realizing that you are not your own thoughts, and realizing that most emotions or feelings will only last around 90 seconds. And what's causing you harm and pain is your label on those experiences. Once you're able to then have that awareness, and that takes not just days or weeks, but potentially months or years to build up, and you can be aided by reading some There's a couple books out there that are really awesome, or again, talking to a friend or talking to a therapist. Once you're able to do that, then comes the real work of, in the same way you lift you lift weights in the gym to build muscles, you are then rewiring your mind. And the first step of that awareness piece is usually the most difficult, because the more you have lived life and the more that you have either numbed or ran away or not acknowledged your problems, means that you will probably release so much stored trauma and pain that it will feel like you are dying when you do that process. But that process is required for you to realize your full potential. The third and final pillar to being unstoppable and never quitting is the pillar of spirituality, or more specifically, your soul. And this is probably the hardest out of the three, because it is the most subjective, it is the most difficult, and it's the most personal to you. As in, for the first two steps, you could argue that you can find a personal trainer, or you could find a sports coach, or you can join some sort of community to get in shape. It requires you to have a little bit of discipline and enact on that plan. And if you don't know that plan, there's plenty of resources. The same way with your mind, there's an entire discipline of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, psychiatry, psychology, self-help, right? That's all out there for you to consume and frame how you want to go down that journey. But for the journey of spirituality, all there really is are questions and guidelines and directions. This is because, as I mentioned before, is that the answer, or your answer, is only ever going to be your answer to your soul. Your soul is so unique and so beautiful, and really, really, it's only you, and no one else could fathom to really 100% understand it or acknowledge it or perceive it. You and you yourself only have the ability to really perceive it. And the natural flow of questioning is, one, well, how do I understand my spirit and my soul? And two, how do I then cultivate my spirituality and raise it? In the same way you can get to that optimal state of being healthy and getting your mind to an optimal state, you can also resonate with your soul in that optimal state. So the first thing to realize about this journey of your soul, and again, you need to do steps 1 and 2 before you do 3, is, one, as mentioned before, you stay in the arena and you never quit. 2, it's a realization that it's a lifelong journey. It's a journey that never ends. And it's a journey that does not have a final destination. It's a constant, I don't want to say battle, but it's a constant tango with life. And it's literally the meaning of never quitting and staying in the arena. So the only real advice that I can give, and this coincides with how do you optimize your spirit and your spirituality, is, one, realize that because your soul has one answer, that answer can only be defined by you. And I don't mean one as in like singular. I mean, there is an answer that's catered to you, but that answer might be so complex and multifaceted that it's not linear or binary. And it's so beautiful and complex that you will only understand it. And that's what I mean by one. That so there's one answer. You have to be wary of anyone in life, whether it be a person or an organization, a thought, a whatever it may be, to tell you what your true soul and meaning and purpose is. And by all means, I wouldn't ever not consume or, you know, put yourself out there and see what other people's answers are or what they have been, because it can help you frame and guide you. But know that if anyone comes up to you that literally tells you this is the way, this is the only answer, this is how you find purpose and meaning and happiness and feel fulfilled, that will never ever give you true fulfillment in life. And I'm not disparaging any sort of like thought or religion or spiritual practice. What I am saying is that whatever you decide to realize as your purpose and meaning in to cultivate your soul has to truly, truly come from you and truly, truly come from a sense of vulnerability and openness and honesty. And even in, like, for example, in an organized religion, you still, like, I'll use Christianity for a reason, you still have a one-on-one unique personal relationship with God or Jesus in that world, in that belief. And that personal relationship is unique and beautiful and crafted in its own way. And by no means am I saying that this requires you to seek religion or Christianity. What I'm trying to say is whatever path you do choose to hone your soul and realize your true meaning and purpose in your own light requires you to do that deep, deep, deep inner work and really, really, really push yourself and never quit and stay in that arena. So, what cultivates the soul? Because it is a journey, what cultivates the soul? And this is what it literally means to be in the arena. To cultivate your soul is literally to do hard things. And to do hard things, what does that mean? To do hard things means to feed your soul by making your time and how you spent the day to be something you're proud of. So, for example, going back to the first pillar, you working out and benefiting yourself will cultivate your soul, right? You working hard to be a loving family member or friend or in your career or whatever you believe to be your path in life feeds your soul. Things that do not feed your soul or spirituality are things that you probably aren't proud of doing, right? Whether things that numb you or close you off or hurt other people or anything that requires uncomfortability and anything that requires you to do hard things is typically something that will cultivate your soul and bring you to a higher level of resonance and understanding with yourself. To be clear, not doing hard things is just a generalized statement, but typically it's the hard things that are truly worth having. And anything worth having in life is difficult to obtain. Things that are cheap and easy to get may provide short-term value to you, but they will never, ever, ever fulfill your soul. In the same way is that if you have 1 and 2 down, you could still be spending the other parts of your time not connecting with friends and like playing video games instead, for example. Not to say that video games are bad, just saying that in the balance of time, it really, really depends on your intention and purpose for doing that thing. And again, your answer is unique and specific to you. I can express potentially how I perceive my meaning and potential and purpose in life, but that will never, ever be your answer. It will always be a little bit different. And, I play video games too. It's not as though I'm against taking a break or relaxing. And again, that's what it means by never quitting, is that you can take a break. You deserve rest. You deserve peace. All it means is that to never leave the arena means to never ever give up on those 3 pillars. And yes, you might miss a day when you work out. You might have a negative thought. You might have days that you're not proud of, right? But if you spend the rest of your life committing yourself to those 3 pillars, you will become unstoppable. If you never quit and you stay in the arena, you will become unstoppable in life, and you will be able to achieve whatever you truly align with and believe in, and you will attain that ever elusive enlightenment in your life. And to be clear, it's a journey, not a destination. And being present and enjoying that journey is part of that coalescence of all 3 pillars tied together. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the podcast.